and we're back with another video. What are we doing today?
So Cyril signed a very controversial bill this past weekend. Expropriation without compensation. But before we get into it, let's just check out this clip first, and then you tell me what you think.
It has just been confirmed that the expropriation bill has been signed into law by President Cyril Ramaphosa. This bill allows for the expropriation of land without compensation. This bill also allows expropriation without compensation in certain cases if it is in public interest. This bill is strongly opposed by parties currently in the GNU, such as the DA and the Freedom Front Plus. Other parties include the IFP and civil rights organizations such as AfriForum, Solidarity, etc. This bill will cause massive havoc in South Africa and will test an already crumbling GNU, but it is important to note that expropriation may not be exercised unless the expropriating authority has without success attempts to reach an agreement with the owner or holder of a right in property. Several parties and organizations have already pledged to take massive legal action against this bill.
So what are your thoughts on all of that?
Yo, I don't even know. Hey? Like, one thing we can agree on is that it's definitely caused a lot of tension. And she has mentioned that it is already riling up an already sort of, I don't know, a GNU that is not in a good place, and it's just made that worse. They've just put them in a worse position. I think this is one of those policies that can really tear the whole GNU apart, because this is where each can go really east and west on.
So for me, this is quite interesting because this is a bill Cyril signed, and seemingly nobody's happy about it.
Yeah.
Like nobody.
Yeah.
Like the progressive forces are not happy about the bill, saying it's not far right enough.
Yes.
Then you have the left, the DA, AfriForum, Freedom Front Plus. They're obviously not happy about it because you're giving the government more power over land and stuff, and they don't want stuff like that.
Yeah.
So only like the more centrist parties, basically the ANC, the only party that are happy with this bill. It's the first time I've seen a bill being signed and people on opposing forces are both of them are not happy.
And the extremes. That's what I'm saying. Like, they are all in extremes.
Yeah. People were very surprised that the EFF came out and
to speak against
the bill.
Particularly because they have been the ones that have, they've been speaking about expropriation without compensation since the beginning of the EFF. And obviously for them to come out and blatantly say, we are opposing this. Obviously it made one want to understand why that doesn't make sense, or are they just flip-flopping, or are they confused, or are they changing their tune? I know when I personally read what they were saying was that it's not that they are opposing expropriation without compensation as a whole. Like they were saying from the beginning, is that the current bill needs to be amended because it currently only speaks to there's only certain land and property that can be taken away without compensation. It's not all land or all kinds of land that could obviously amount to nil compensation or zero compensation. It kind of makes me confused, because then I'd say yes. Also, given that that's the case, I don't understand then why the DAs and the Freedom Front Plus are upset as well.
Let me tell you why. So this bill tried to appease both sides, but it fails to appease. So the left they don't want this at all.
Yes.
All land must be compensated if it's going to be expropriated. All of it. And the right says all land can be expropriated without compensation.
Yes.
Meaning, so the difference between what the EFF want and what the ANC have signed into law is that the EFF want all land to be owned by the government.
Yes.
Finish
and that
clear.
The government can then redistribute or
distribute it fairly. Yes. So the EFF want that all land to be owned by the government and it can be distributed fairly.
Yeah.
While the DA say that no land should be expropriated without compensation. This bill sits somewhere in between. They're saying that some land can be expropriated without compensation, and some land should be compensated for expropriation.
And then how do we decide on who then?
There's a whole committee for expropriation, where the government negotiates with the property owner and all that kind of stuff like that.
They've done that. They've tried that. Remember, they were also crying that they've tried that for years.
What?
That's why they came. This whole buyer-seller sort of negotiation thing. But then now they're saying that the owners are like charging exorbitant amounts and like just going crazy basically, so they're never sort of reaching an agreement where both parties are, so they feel like that just doesn't work, like it's not working. I feel like because since they're saying now they're all trying to be in between, it's like on a matter of, if we agree with how much you're asking for, then we'll give you, but if we don't, we're going to take it. It's almost
basically it's something like that, but not entirely, because the owner can still take the state to court and all that stuff like that. The state needs to justify why this land is going to be expropriated without compensation.
Yeah.
So there are very few cases that people bring up where they say that, for example, if the land was, if you can trace it back and see that it was stolen, or stolen land.
I mean, it's going to be, because who are they purchasing it from? Like, who's if not the state, who's supposed to cut land and
there are instances like that. They say that if they can trace back the land that it was taken unfairly back in the apartheid years and all that stuff like that, that can come into factor to expropriate without compensation. Or, for example, if the owner of the land is somehow not using the land and it's abandoned, it's not occupied, it's not being used, then the land can be expropriated without compensation. There's like certain clauses like that. So again, the government can't just take your land. They can't just do that. Right? It has to be for public interest.
Absolutely.
So for example, let's say there's like a rural area or an informal settlement amongst acres of land. Acres of land that's owned by somebody. And that person is not using that land for anything productive. So the government can come in, expropriate that land, and not have to compensate that person, and build a school there, or build a library for public interest, like for anything that could benefit the public. So if the government, for example, wants to build a school in that land, build a library, or build something that can benefit the public in that land, they can take that land and not pay you for it. Now, people are debating whether that's constitutional or not. If the government was more efficient, if the government actually worked well, and if the government was doing its job the way it's supposed to be doing, all these progressive laws that Cyril is signing to basically reduce inequality, it will be fine. But it's always like, South Africans are always skeptical when the government takes more power.
Because we kind of like, we don't even know their intentions at this point. Do you know what I mean? Like, even things like this, it's so hard to even celebrate them, because we know, like, we can't even be certain that they're coming from a good place. They come with just signing off a bill to expropriate land, but we don't even have there's no solid plan. Do you know what I'm saying? That has been presented first. Like, if you came, hi, we want to build, I'm making an example, we want to build a smart city that has these amazing things, but we're lacking land, we don't have land to do it. And we also have this plan to do this, and this plan to do this, and that. Here are the plans, here's the budget for it, here's this and this, but we're really just short of land to do this. I feel like in situations like that, that's a different thing. Like, okay, then you come, then you decide on the ball. But like now, I feel like they're just stirring pots. Do you know what I mean? Like, already in a place where we already have heightened racial tensions, and obviously something like this will be received in that way and will be taken in that way.
Well, some people are speculating that Cyril's signing all these progressive laws. So first he signed
save there.
First he signed NHI just before election, just to try and gain back the votes that they lost from the EFF and MK. And now then afterwards they signed the Bella bill, and then now they're signing in this expropriation bill. So all these three progressive bills are being signed by the ANC, because the ANC have lost like the majority of the country's vote.
Yeah.
So Cyril's doing this just to try and gain back those votes.
Yeah.
You know. Now the funny thing, which I find very funny, is that ever since the GNU started, DA came into government, and now the DA leader is a minister for the ANC.
Yeah.
Now because that is happening, it seems like the ANC are now able to sign more progressive laws when they have the DA in their pockets than when the DA was like opposition. Because before, when the DA was opposition, it was very difficult for the ANC to sign all these progressive laws and all that stuff like that. But now that they have the DA
because
in
it's
the pocket,
guys now, isn't it, that they...
Even though the DA are trying, even the DA tried to oppose NHI, it still went through. The DA now is now opposing.
Yes.
They also opposed Bella Bill, still went through. Now they're opposing the Expropriation Bill.
Why is that?
Still going through. So you see, so people are saying that Cyril could have strategically put the DA under his pocket,
of course,
so that he can sign all these progressive bills.
Of course.
It's so weird seeing ministers that are supposed to be working for a president come out and openly say that they will not implement the bills that he's signing in.
Yeah, like, going against the president.
Yeah. So now, I don't know how it's supposed to work, but how I think it's supposed to work is that now that you are a minister under the president, it is your duty
to carry out the mandate.
To carry out the president's mandate. That's why you're his minister. Absolutely. He chose you to carry out his mandate. Like the EFF, as much as they don't feel like this is in line with what they're trying to do, it's a step in their direction.
Yeah.
It's a step. They should celebrate that. Okay, at least we move it there.
Like being mad at
least, it should be like, at least we're going in that direction. Yeah. So at some point we could get to that. To that point where the whole state owns everything.
But I think they just mad that it's not them. Also,
could be that.
That's another thing. Like, because you should just be happy, like, okay, we are moving in that direction, as you say. But for you to say, like, completely, like, bash it and like, hey, it just shows that you hate that it's not you. Like, if you believe in the state taking ownership or the government taking ownership of land, then you should be quite comfortable with it in whatever, Otherwise, you're a hypocrite. So this has nothing to do with reform, basically.
Yes, like, that's another thing that people are talking about as well.
It has absolutely nothing.
This expropriation bill does not help reform land reform at all. It doesn't.
Like, that's why people are also not embracing it, I'm guessing, because the whole reason why people wanted that was let's start with the reform first.
So this bill actually it's just to allow the government to be able to build more infrastructure. Yeah. So in actuality, nobody's happy. And for those who are actually worried about your property, nobody is coming to take your
you're not gonna
2-bedroom apartment. Nobody's gonna come take your 3-bedroom house somewhere. Just take it without paying you. Nobody's gonna do that. So you shouldn't be too stressed about that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That stuff will be very rare, if non-existent. It's only gonna focus on land that's actually gonna be beneficial for the public.
Vacant lands, usually.
Not. It doesn't have to be vacant, but it's gonna be. It has to be beneficial for the public. Yeah. But anyway, you guys just let us know what you think about this whole situation.
Yeah, let us know.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And keep watching. Goodbye.
We'll check you guys in the next one.